and I get the little bump or the benefit from some of the guests that I have because they're up there and not me.
But you have an audience that other people don't have, so I don't
Yeah,
think
but
that...
I just feel like it's not I have a niche audience, and I just feel like I think I feel a lot better if I were to have a bigger platform. Not because I think I don't know. I don't want to take. I want to give more than I do take. I don't know if that's just...
I think that's his decision to make.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that the way that you grow is by having the people you want on here. So I challenge you to get him on the podcast, hopefully this year, and maybe let him decide. I mean, you don't have to play it up. You let him know what you're doing. And I think that for any guest, especially for podcasts that are not like super mainstream, any guest that they have on there is on there because they have something to say about that will add to that podcast, not so much because they think, oh, Jonathan has this platform that I can use to make myself bigger, when he knows that he could be on the news any day. So I think that's one way to think about it, right? Like you shouldn't put yourself in that small little bubble.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, there's an audience you have that other podcasts don't. It doesn't matter how small it is. You have a specific audience, and they might want to hear from someone like him. Anyways, that's my make you feel better for the day.
All right, I appreciate it. I mean, it makes sense. I just, yeah. And also, I don't know. I think I'm just very insecure about a lot of the stuff that I do. When I get I don't know.
Well, on to something positive.
Yeah.
So, what have you been doing this year to better yourself that maybe your audience can take away?
I've mentioned it, I think, on the first and a couple other episodes after, since the new year. I've been reading a lot more. While I read, I'm learning a lot of different words that I'm not familiar with. So I feel like my vocabulary is getting a lot better. I can talk super smart if I wanted to. But I think reading helps a lot with being articulate. I like to read out loud, as you can tell, because I feel that when I read out loud, I can break down the sentence, and I retain it a little bit or two. So I've just been reading more and trying to... What I've been doing lately is, since my job is so, I have so much free time on my hands, I set a timer for an hour for whatever it is I'm doing. So you got me that paint by number, that humongous paint by number thing. So I'll set an hour just because I don't want to spend all day on it and waste a day. And I try to be more productive. So from reading books, I'll read for an hour, or I'll work on my podcast for an hour. Just stuff like that. So I think those are some of the things that I've been doing that maybe people can take away from. Set an hour. If you have a bunch of time on your hands, give yourself an hour. Give yourself an hour to relax, read a book, or watch TV. Watch an episode. They're about 45 minutes to an hour long these days anyway. Give yourself an hour to cook, make a meal, or give yourself an hour to work out, or even 30 minutes. Whatever the case is, break it up into increments throughout the day to be more productive. I find that that's helping me a lot.
Okay. I keep saying and now I feel like that's all we're gonna hear.
At least you're not saying like with every other word. That's a pet peeve of mine.
So those are all the questions I had already pre-planned. So I know you said you were reading. What books are you reading right now?
So I'm reading Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey and Get Out of Your Own Way. I don't know who the author is, but one's about finance and kind of get yourself out of debt so you can take more control of your life. Today, a lot of people like to buy nice things to impress people they don't like. And I think that book is perfect for people who feel like they're in so much debt that they feel like they're never going to get out, and they're going to owe something or somebody, some entity, for the rest of their lives. And that book is really good because it gives you hope, that not only hope, it gives you a strategic, planned way to get out of that debt. So, and that mindset too. So, and get out of your own way. But I'm pretty sure it's written by a psychologist, and he talks about self-defeating behaviors. And some of those self-defeating behaviors that I've mentioned on the podcast are stuff like procrastination, or communication with your spouse or a loved one. Just certain things that you need to learn how to look out for certain people, and not be so reactive when certain things don't go your way. Or more like, I know it's easier said than done, but if you're super angry or upset, take a second, look at the situation, and approach it in a different way than you usually would, because most of the time when we are reactive, it gets combative with whoever you're being reactive with, versus take a second, put yourself in the other person's shoes. Why are they being this way? Why do you have to react in a negative way? Stuff like that. And I think it helps with communication, just even with strangers. So those are the 2 books I'm reading, but I got 2 more books that I'm really looking forward to. That one you got me, what is it? The Male Brain. The Male Brain, and then the other one you got me.
Manage.
Yeah, the productivity book.
Day-to-day manage or something.
Yeah. So those are the books I'm reading right now. I'm almost done with one of them, but
what's one change that you really want to make for yourself? One major change. Like,
in what aspect?
Anything. It could be as simple as you want your hair to be longer, or
I want abs.
Okay.
I want to stop being fat. No, one change I want to make. I want to be more confident.
That's a good one.
I think I second guess myself too much.
I think so too. Yeah. Which is crazy, because you sit here and talk to this audience that you don't see, and they go on here and they expect something from you every single week. And then you're kind of just being like really honest right now and letting them know. Yeah.
But even when I do that, every single time I'm like, damn, what did I mess up? What can I make better?
And that's fine. That's how you grow. I think people who, there's a difference, right? Like, some people can really be like, man, I'm the best. And they believe it so much that they continue to be better. But there's some people who are like, oh, I'm the best.
I want to be that person.
Because they say I'm the best because they're trying to convince themselves, and then they get stuck in that place where they're like, oh, I'm just good enough. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why I miss some weeks without putting out a podcast, because my heart's not in it, and I don't want to be fake. I don't want to give like some half-assed podcast that I just cooked up.
I think that is something that should be required.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants to hear you saying something positive that it sounds like you're trying to convince yourself that it's positive.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of growth with the podcast in the sense of the layout and how I've done it, because when I first started, I wanted to be like the Joe Rogan podcast, where I wanted a guest every month, at least one guest a month. And then that was short-lived. But and the long duration podcast.
But not because you didn't try.
Yeah, I know, but it's just resources and stuff. But and then it went to, I'm gonna do like themes, the theme of this month, and like I went back and it's kind of cringy, and it's like, oh, why did I do that? And but I learned from it, and then I tried writing it out. I tried doing those bullet points where you have bullet points and I was just gonna riff off the bullet points, but then I started just repeating myself, and I didn't really know how my thoughts were going to go into each one of those bullet points. So that wasn't that great, because it sounded really robotic. I wasn't natural with it. And then I finally got where we're at now, that I feel really comfortable with, is I take mostly the week to write it out, most of the time anyway, if not a few hours. And I get all my thoughts in there. I try to think what would be the rebuttal. I try to make it, I try to go through the process like if it's a debate, and I try to make my point across for whoever's listening. And, you know, when they're listening to the podcast, they're like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. What about this? And then I try to think about that, and hopefully I hit that. And they say, oh, wow, he thought about that. So more thoughtful with some of the stuff. And I think it's been working out so far. So far, so good.
Yeah, I agree. I can definitely see the change. And I feel like when you first started, you were really excited, but I could see how it would stress you out sometimes. And now I feel like you're at a more comfortable place where it's not so much stressful, but that you genuinely want to learn and grow. And that makes it more fun as opposed to it being stressful. And then you kind of just get stuck there.
Yeah. And I know I've said this before, especially with Hakeem, that I like random facts. And doing this podcast has gotten me a ton of random facts, just like good facts. Mm-hmm. And that makes me feel good because I can just drop that into any regular conversation that I have with regular people.
What's a random fact you have for us today?
Oh, I don't. The fish are coming back from overfishing. Yeah. I just found that out today. That's like one of the good news things that I was reading today. Certain areas are being repopulated. Certain countries are banning toxic sunscreen near reefs, because apparently, I didn't know this until today, sunscreen destroys coral reefs. So
I did not know that either.
Yeah. So, and a lot of those coral reefs are like, they're being so damaged that there's no life there. They're colorless and stuff. So stuff like that is just being changed and doing a 180, which is good. And I wouldn't know that unless I did a little bit of research, because once again, there's no outlets out there telling you these things. But I get a lot of my good news from goodnewsnetwork.org, positive.news, Good Black News, sometimes BBC if they're not talking about politics and stuff. So there's ones and twos there.
What's your favorite Instagram page to follow right now? Dean.
Yeah, I think Dean. Just seeing Dean Schneider, man, he's got a whole pride of lions that he just be laying with, and he has his niche, which is the animals, and I think his goal is to it's kind of like a hippy dippy goal, but I like it. It's get people to understand and accept the animals the way they are, so we can love them with all our hearts and love them and let them into our hearts, so we can show more passion to the wild rather than have all the, I've seen another video talking about lions. There was like, I think they had like 30 lions trapped in like a warehouse because they would just breed them for hunting purposes, which is really morbid in South Africa. And it's just stuff like that this guy is really doing the work, and he's very genuine too. He lets people know, like, look, people are sending me this one animal who's gotten a lot of attention because of how it's been treated. It's like, I can't keep up with everything. I'm only one person, so it's just stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's my favorite because he's got the two little monkeys. He's got raccoons and dogs and a hyena, a whole bunch of different animals. I kind of want to just move all my stuff and go live out there and help him.
Oh, I know you mean.
But you're not down with it.
No, I'm not. I lost my train of thought because now I'm thinking about these lions. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
So for your podcast moving forward, what do you see becoming your biggest challenge? I know that you want to do the videos. I know that you want to have more guests. Anything else that you see as a challenge?
I think my biggest challenge is myself, to be honest. Just getting out of my own comfort zone and putting in the work. Because if you really just do the work, it's going to work out. And I'm lazy some days.